quick thank you to our sponsors for making this podcast possible. They keep this show free to listen to. Struggling with weight makes parenting even more difficult. But like getting help in our parenting, there's also help to regulate our weight. Mochi Health takes a holistic approach to weight loss that includes visits with board-certified doctors, nutrition consultants, and even science-backed GLP-1 medications like Ozempic delivered to your door. Mochi Health offers affordable and accessible support regardless of insurance coverage. With Mochi, their dietitians work hand in hand with your medication to create personalized nutrition plans that fit your lifestyle so you can reach your weight loss goals. They offer guidance from real doctors and registered dietitians, making easy and sustainable changes to achieve results. To get started, go to joinmochi.com, and when you use code PEACE, you will receive $40 off. Go to joinmochi.com and use code PEACE for your $40 discount today. Hi, I'm Michelle, a mother of 2 teens. 13 years ago, I traded in punishments and rewards for connection. Now I prioritize relationship over behaviors, utilize play as a parenting tool, and set limits with empathy instead of consequences. Each week, I share my journey and interview clients, experts, and followers. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm Michelle, and I have a podcast listener, also Instagram follower, also private Facebook group member, Cecilia, who's coming with a parenting dilemma that I really want to help her out with. So welcome to the show, Cecilia. Will you tell people who you are?
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So my name is Cecilia. I'm a mom to 3 kids. I'm married. We've been married for just about 10 years now. I have a 17-year-old boy. He's not a boy anymore, but a 17-year-old teenager, and an 8-year-old daughter, and then a 7-year-old son. So I have 3 kids. I live in Southern California, and we're just trying to navigate this parenting thing and survive it. So
okay, and so let's get into it. You tell me what you wrote to me about what's hard.
Okay, I've been learning about the connected parenting stuff. I do the podcast, and I try and read up, and I see the benefits. So I'm like really trying to implement these things. And so one area that I noticed that we really seem to battle with the kids, with our little ones, is having patience with setting limits and not falling into old patterns of consequences. My oldest, who's the 17-year-old, there was a lot of trial and error with that. I didn't have all of these wonderful resources to like fall back on. And so we did a lot of timeouts, and we did a lot of taking things away, and you're grounded for a week, or you can't go do this for 2 weeks. And now that I have this other information under my belt, I feel like I want to try and do things differently. And so I struggle because of my little ones. When there's a limit that needs to be set, it's very easy for me to want to follow up with the punishment and say, well, then you can't have screen time, or you can't go play with your friends. And in my heart, I know that that's not effective, but it's just it's what I can reach easily. It's just right there.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's how we were parented, right? And so we don't know any different.
100%.
Yeah. Great question. I'm sure lots of people can relate. Let's talk about this idea of, what do we believe punishments do?
Stop a behavior.
They can stop the behavior, right? For some kids.
I think that's the intention when I do it, is like, it's going to stop a behavior. What I believe, I think that if I really were to say, like, when I punish, what it does to my kids is it just makes a bigger problem. And we spend more time in the back and forth and in the fighting than making anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it can stop the behavior sometimes, and for some kids in some ways, but I think it causes resentment. It causes more fighting, maybe. It causes more upset. And I think that we want to stop the behavior because we think the behavior is bad.
Yeah.
But if we can reframe the behavior maybe we won't want to stop it so badly if we can think of the behavior as a mistake, as a dysregulated moment.
Yeah. That's a part of the struggle too, I think, because again, like that goes back to like how I was parented and the things I was allowed and not allowed to do when I was upset or making mistakes or feeling whatever. I'm also reading Good Inside by Dr. Becky. And so a lot of that aligns with what you preach in your podcast, I feel. And so I really am trying to be better about sitting with their feelings and sitting through the tantrums and allowing them to have their feelings. I'm just not, I'm not perfect at it.
No.
And so the
Yeah.
times that I don't get to do that, it feels really awful.
Yeah.
Because I know how it feels to do it the other way.
Yeah. Right.
So,
And so I think you're there. I think it isn't so much what do I do instead? Because I think you said in what you wrote me, like, what do I do, instead of the punishment, instead of the consequence? I think it's
yeah,
more, what do we think instead?
yeah, that would make sense.
If we can think the right thing, maybe it helps us do the right thing.
Yes. I love that like energy. And I'm like, yes, if I can get my head into that mindset where in those moments I can down regulate, I know I can be effective, but maybe that's the bigger issue is that I'm struggling to down regulate in those high, like those escalated moments. And I feel myself getting ramped up because they're ramped up. And I have a hard time like keeping my cool sometimes, I think. So,
And you're not alone in that either. I think, when we see misbehavior, quote unquote, it sends us into a place because I think we blame ourselves to some degree. Like my kid's acting badly because I'm not doing my parenting right.
yes. Yep. I totally feel that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. But you're not doing anything wrong. Guess what? They're supposed to behave like that.
Oh, well. Didn't you say so?
Yeah. They're supposed to
I
do that
know.
stuff. They're supposed to.
I
And it's
know. They're
like,
not perfect. I
well,
know.
also, you're not perfect. And your kid's behavior is not a reflection of your parenting. You're doing great, even if they hit their brother, even if they call you a jerk, even if they refuse to do their homework, even if they throw the remote control and hit the wall. Like, even if they do all those things, you're still a good mom.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think we're too hard on ourselves.
Yeah. I agree with that too.
It's a common theme. I see everybody I talk to, it's the same thing. They blame themselves.
I think too, we've been made to believe that we need to have this instant, like immediate response from our kids. And if we don't have that, that does reflect on us as a parent in some way. Like, right. Like I know it doesn't, but it feels like it does. And so, not having a consequence, not having a punishment, if I were to say, it's time to do homework, so you need to put the screens away. And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, it's homework time now. We've had time with the screens, right? So we're going to turn the screens off. Do you want me to do it? Do you think you can do it on your own? Right. And they're like, no. And then they take the control and they run and they laugh. And you're just like, ah.
Okay, so let's talk about that piece. Okay, let's
Okay.
move from the mindset. We know the mindset needs to change, right? And that's
Yeah.
something we can constantly think about. Now, cooperation is what you're talking about. Like you're not getting the cooperation you want. And so you want to punish them in order to get the cooperation, it sounds like, for some of this stuff.
Okay. Yes.
Cooperation and connection go hand in hand.
I had a feeling you would say that.
Yeah, the connection's low. Not all the time, but in that very moment, if the connection's low or it's a hard ask, they're not going to want to comply. And if you've been using punishments and you've stopped using punishments, they're like, it's a free for all now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go for it because we've been controlled for so long. So now we're going bananas.
Yeah. That's like the fear too, is that they are going to like run with that and they won't be able to be like, they won't go down this path of like having this internal desire, internal motivation to like want to be good and to listen, or I don't know.
Yeah. All those things, they will go down a lot bad path. And this is where conscious connective, whatever parenting gets a lot of bad raps, is that that's what the, society believes. Like, oh, I'm just going to let my kids run amok because they don't build in the connection.
Yeah.
Because that's what keeps them on the moral path is the connection. So, what connection pieces are you using in your home?
If I were to answer just in this moment, I would say it doesn't feel like a lot. It's that's the struggle is to like carve. It feels like I have to carve out time, which I feel horrible saying. Like I have to make time to connect with my kids, but it feels that way sometimes. And I think that we do every night before they go to bed. My husband and I each trade kids every night, and we each put the kids to bed, and like we'll just talk about their day, or we'll pray, or we'll do something with them throughout the day. Like we're with the kids doing homework, taking them to sports, but it's not like we're setting time aside for with that intention of connecting. But
Yeah.
I think it's happening in small moments. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that those are beautiful, right? That putting your kids to bed and getting connected with them at night, and none of that should change. There are ways to build connection into hard moments. And I think that's where connection isn't thought of as like yeah, sure, you probably should set aside time and do special time with each of your kids every day. That's probably something you should do as a part of your daily practice. And that's where people say it's hard and it creates more work and it's extra time, but it isn't everything in connection, but it should be something that everyone does. 20 minutes of special time where they're in charge and they get to choose the activity. And it's just a injection of connection. But when your kid is telling you, no, I'm not turning off the iPad, I'm not doing it. If you can turn that moment into connection, now you're winning. So you come to them with play. You go, oh, little boys, little girls who don't turn off their iPads are going to have to get chased by mommy. Can you make that moment a connective moment? You get them off the iPad because you're chasing them now.
yeah.
You're not fighting with them about turning it off, but you're creating a physical boundary and you're not getting ignited because you're going to play.
Yes. And there have been moments that I can do that. I feel like they've been fewer and more far between. What's the saying? Fewer and farther between lately. It's hard for me to find the patience or whatever. Maybe not even patience, but just to be able to like turn it on and say, okay, like let me try it this way. Let me do it this way so I can have a better outcome. So we can have like a more positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's just something, sometimes it feels really hard to do that.
Yeah, of course, because we're living in a society that says, don't do that.
Yeah.
Everyone around us, our family, our friends, our partners, everybody is saying, the kids are running amok and it's your fault. If you don't get them reined in, you're going to have horrible kids. Your family's looking at you like you're crazy because you're not spanking them and punishing them and God knows what else. And so where do you go? And so then you start to get in your own head because you're parenting alone on this island, doing this connective stuff, reading your books and listening to your podcasts, and nobody's on your same page.
Yeah.
So of course it doesn't come top of mind because you're not spending every day talking about it with people like me or people like the people I know that are doing this work. We're isolated. We're in our houses just trying so hard to change things all alone.
Yeah.
It's too hard. We're taking a break to hear from our sponsor so I can bring this podcast to you free of charge. Esme and I both suffer from allergies, and there's nothing more debilitating than trying to have a conversation while in the middle of an uncontrollable sneezing attack. Over 100 million Americans suffer from allergies, and they're not just an inconvenience. They're the number one reason that people miss work. Good news, everyone. Curex can treat those allergies effectively with just a few drops a day, and in 3 to 6 months, you could start feeling real relief. It's easier than brushing your teeth. These allergy drops are trusted by doctors and backed by science with hundreds of studies from top institutions like Harvard Medical School and the Mayo Clinic. Curex makes getting these allergy drops super easy and affordable. Everything is 100% online. Check out Curex. Treatment starts as low as $59 a month. And if you sign up now, Curex is currently running a promotion and you can save up to 80% off of the $49 sign-up fee. Go to getcurex.com. That's GETCUREX.com. Don't let allergies control your life. Take control with Curex. Go to getcurex.com. That's GETCUREX.com. I'm excited to tell you all about FeatherSnap Scout Smart Bird Feeder, a great example of how technology can connect people with nature in really cool ways. I don't know if you know, but I'm from Oregon, and in our house, there are tons of birds. So this Wi-Fi enabled smart feeder combines state-of-the-art camera and app tech with an age-old pursuit, birdwatching. The feeder includes a high-end camera that captures crisp 4-megapixel photos and 1080p video of your feathered visitors. Then use the FeatherSnap app expert-trained AI identification model to nail down the species and categories the birds you see. I cannot wait to get the bald eagle on this camera. Tech that truly helps you tune into the world around you. Check them out today at feathersnapcam.com. That's feathersnapcam.com. This episode is sponsored by ByHeart. ByHeart is on a mission to make the best infant formula in the world. They use a patented protein blend that gets closest to breast milk. It includes alpha-lac, the most abundant protein found in breast milk, and lactoferrin, the number one protein found in colostrum. ByHeart's easy-to-digest formula and patented protein blend includes prebiotics and an 80-20 whey-to-casein ratio, just like in early breast milk, which is tailor-made for a newborn's digestive system. ByHeart is made with certified, clean ingredients, plus it has no soy, corn syrup, GMOs, or palm oil. Curious about ByHeart? Redeem your welcome offer at byheart.com/podcast with code PEACE. It's available for a limited time, so don't miss out. That's byheart.com/podcast with code PEACE, because every baby deserves the best start. Let's dive back in. I was just telling Cecilia, everybody, before we got on, I was like, you should join the Connected Parent Mastermind. And I do believe that it's a program you have to pay for. And I know people are like, well, we shouldn't have to pay for parenting and blah, blah, blah. BS. You should, because it's important. And because you buy yourself a community of people. We have 120 people in there. They're all doing this work. And then you get to go to meetings 3 days a week and say, oh, you're doing it too. Your kid hit you. My kid hit me. Oh my gosh, you didn't spank him or put him in timeout. Me neither. Oh my God, this is such a struggle. And then you're more inundated with folks that are doing it. You're talking about it. You're mulling it over. You're listening to modules. You're doing homeworks. You're journaling. You're coming back to class. Like, we need community. We can't do this alone. It's too hard.
I agree. The accountability too, I think, is helpful. Like for me, especially, just to be able to say, I tried this and I had a win. I feel like that's such a big deal.
Yep.
You know,
or to say, I didn't do special time for 2 weeks. Now my kids are running amok. And then to have to say that to, the coaches or the other people,
yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, I did special time and it was amazing. And you're like, shoot, I should do special time.
Yeah.
But when you're, all alone in your house and no one even knows what special time is, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does feel very, I do feel isolated in that, because my husband is like not very open-minded to like this idea, but he does see, and I do see, since I've implemented some of the things, right, that I have a good connection with my kids, as far as they'll come back. I don't tell them to apologize anymore, but they'll come back and they will apologize. My son just did it this morning. He came back and apologized to his sister. And I thought that I didn't say anything. I didn't shame him. He just came and he did it on his own. And when I see that, I'm like, okay, when my kids feel safe coming to me and sharing things with me or having big emotions, I'm like, I'm doing something right. And I do agree with you. The mindset is everything, because I am hard on myself, and getting into that mind frame of like, I can change the narrative and I can make things fun and still set the limit. Like, that is really, it is challenging, but I know it's effective. And so I know mind frame is everything. You're right. Like, I have to wrap my head around that and believe it all the time.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like more exposure to it, right? Like,
yes,
being exposed to people like that, talking about it, reading like you're doing, like really making it your job. I used to, the first year I did this work, I was a crazy person. I mean, I was reading every day before I picked up the kids. I had a listening partner. I was taking 2 classes at the same time. Like I was like, because there was no way without all that stuff, I could have done it.
Yeah.
There's no way because it's too hard. It's too hard to even tell people you're doing it, let alone do it in front of anyone.
Yeah.
If you say, "Oh, I'm going to kiss you if you don't turn off your iPad," your mom's going to be like, "What are you doing?" You know, like, are you insane?
That's my favorite thing that I've learned from you. I use that with my 17-year-old more than anything. I just did it with him last night because he was messing with my 17-year-old and my 7-year-old son are butt heads. I mean, they just go at it. They go at it. And last night I came in and my 17-year-old is copying my 7-year-old. He's like, meh, 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 meh. And then my 7-year-old gets mad. Well, meh, meh, and so he's copying him. And I said, you need attention. I can tell. I said, you need love right now. And he's like, oh no, because he knows what it is now. So I'm chasing my 17-year-old around the house and I'm like, I can tell. I corner him and I like hug him and I'm like, we're giggling and laughing. But you're right. And I know,
Yes,
I know it stops it. Like it does. And nobody's yelling at each other or crying. And my 7-year-old's laughing and he's like, yeah, get him. He's like, yeah, give him kisses, and it does it. I'm like emotional, but I know it works.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
But you're doing it, Cecilia. You're absolutely doing it. That's a beautiful story. And you're using with your 17-year-old, which is gorgeous. I love that.
Yeah, he's the one. He's my mini me.
Oh, I hear you. I have an 18-year-old in the other room who's, she's hard.
I've heard your stories. I know. Trust me. I've learned so much from your podcast, just listening to your podcast, the few episodes. Yeah, but it is so challenging to not fall back into those patterns, like being around my family and even with my husband too, where he's just like,
nope, yep,
put him in timeout, do this, and
I read posts sometimes and people will comment things and question me and I'll be like, wait, hold on. Like, wait, am I right here? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I question myself because the old school conventional logic is so still ingrained in me that sometimes I'm like, no. Hold on. I have to really take a breath, even 13 years into this.
Yeah, it's encouraging to hear that, but I'm also like, oh my gosh, like, does it get easier?
No, it does. Sorry. Yeah. It does get easier, but it's always there.
Yeah.
It's always there for me anyway. I don't know if other people feel the same, but for me, it's always there. Somewhere deep in there, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets a lot easier. And the more you do it, you create these neural pathways and that becomes your new reality. And I think, getting support is important and surrounding yourself with folks that are open-minded is important.
Yeah, I know you're right. And that community, I think, is something that would be so good to have because it's like you said, it's just, you're all in the trenches together.
Every day someone's coming to me, my kid hit me. And I'm like, oh, you're not alone. How many people's, then I'll say, how many people's kids hit them? And they're all raising their hands. And I'm like, see, because we think we're the only ones, right? We're the only ones with the 17-year-old and the 7-year-old who fight. We're the only ones with the anxiety 18-year-old. We're not. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
But you're doing it, Cecilia. You really are. I think just trying to see them differently too is going to help you that they don't want to do the wrong thing. They really don't. They just make dumb mistakes.
And I think that's another reason that I am so hard on myself too, because I know they're not doing it to like make me mad. I know they're not doing it because they're like, how can I make mom mad today? Like, I know that. Okay. But I do, you're right. Like just seeing it as like they're, I forget the word you used earlier. Not that it's a problem.
Dysregulated.
Yeah. And so it's like they're making a mistake. Like that is a good, I need to use that because mistakes to me are okay. When I hear like someone made a mistake, I'm like, okay, we can work through that. Like that is like, I don't know the word I'm trying to think of, but I feel like I can work with somebody making a mistake.
Right.
But when I'm like seeing their behavior as
an intentional misbehavior or bad. Yes. And I hear that a lot. Bad. People will say to me, well, so I'm okay with mistakes, but I'm not okay with intentional mistakes. People will have that reasoning. And I think there is this this thought, like if my kid looks at me and throws the thing on the ground that I told them not to just 2 minutes ago, then that's not a mistake. That is an intent to do the wrong thing. But that's not true. That isn't true. That's still a mistake. They let their brain get the best of them. That's it. They did the wrong thing.
Yes. And I'm going to start using that today because I understand why parents have that mentality. Like even though when you say it out loud, it sounds kind of silly, right? You're like a mistake and an intentional mistake. Like that
Right.
doesn't work.
Right.
But I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. They think a mistake is something that you do accidentally.
Like knocking over something on accident.
Yeah, no awareness of, right?
Uh-huh.
But many people believe, well, if you had an awareness and you knew you weren't supposed to do the wrong thing, then you were choosing the wrong thing on purpose.
Right.
But a child chooses the wrong thing because they're overwhelmed with their immature brain and their feelings. And they don't know how to choose the right thing, just like you're talking about. You don't know how to choose the right thing when you're overwhelmed in your parenting.
Yeah. And I'm an adult and I've been alive a lot longer and it's so hard.
Exactly.
Like, how could it be easy? Like I can't expect them to do that. And so
it's a mistake.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to use that starting today. All of it. lots of mistakes.
Your new mantra. It's only mistakes.
I remember in one of your podcasts, you said something, I don't even know which one it was, but something about, I wish I could remember because the way you said it, it like really hit home. It was something about why do we want our kids to feel bad when they've made a mistake? Like when we punish them. And that has stuck with me because when I do have those moments where I fall into punishments and I think that I feel so guilty too. I feel like so much guilt surrounding that because I'm like, why do I want my kids to feel bad for that?
Yeah.
I don't remember what you said, but it's something along the lines of that. It was something you had said that was like that.
Yeah. And it's like when we think of ourselves, when we make a mistake, do we want someone to come around and punish us and tell us how bad it was and what if someone took your phone because you said something mean to your husband? It's ludicrous. It's literally ludicrous, but it's considered so normal. Yeah. Oh, you sassed me? Give me your phone. Oh, you came in late? You're not going out next weekend. Like, what if that happened to adults?
I know. It would never happen. That's the thing is, yeah, I know. And I think that to myself in these moments and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is...
Well, I think it does go back to this piece where you're probably, I don't know, but I think you confirmed it that you're blaming yourself for their behavior.
Yes. And especially when I know I'm not spending time connecting with them.
Right.
It's even harder because I feel like, well, you're not doing the XYZ. You're not putting in that work to connect. And so now they're doing this and it is. And now I'm like in that, which it is like, I can take accountability. Like I understand that I have to put in some work to repair these things, but I don't know. There's all of that in there.
Yeah. But that very moment where you're beating yourself up and saying, oh, I should be connecting, you can connect. You can create a kind limit. You can use play. You can ask if they want to do, you could stop in any of these moments and say, who wants to do special time? Mm-hmm. And that could be the way in which you just turn it around in that very moment. You don't have to be like, oh, well, I need more time. I didn't do special time and beat myself up. And I got to carve out time. No. Right now, this can be connection.
I'm going to tell you something and I don't know what you're going to say, but you'll probably just laugh if anything. I have not introduced special time to my kids. And I just have so much, I'm like, if I do it, I have to keep doing it. And I'm really struggling with that because I'm like, once I started, I have to keep doing it. And that seems really like big for me.
It is. It is big, but it is so big in so many beautiful ways too.
Yeah. I know it will be.
And you'll love it because it makes us feel connected to them, which those limit settings and some of the other things and those games and what they're not I don't think they feed my soul as much, but special time, it makes me feel connected to my kid. And I need that.
Yeah.
I need it.
I need it. And I know they need it too. I don't know why I'm battling that one. I need to do it, but...
Do it.
Yeah.
You'll do it now. Now you kind of have to.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Now we
got the major accountability.
Yeah. Now we talked about it. So now it's out there in the world. People are going to listen to this. They're going to find you. They're going to be like, why aren't you doing special time? Yeah.
What are you doing? Did you do your 20 minutes today?
Exactly. And start out with 10 if it feels too big.
Yeah.
Just start out with 10.
Yeah, I'd love if my husband and I were like on board together and he's like, I've got, we've got this every day, but it's not there yet. He's not quite there yet. And so I think it's just like knowing I have to do it right now, and how that affects like the marriage dynamic too of parenting. I feel like I think about a lot of that, maybe too much so. And
the marriage piece, if he sees you doing it and it's working and it looks good and it feels good, he's going to come around on his own.
I think so. Yeah. He's a great dad and he loves those kids. And I know he wants to always be better for them.
Yep.
This just dynamic of like how we were raised, like a lot, I hear that's what I hear from him the most. My dad would never let me do that. I would never get away with that when I was a kid. And I'm like, well, neither would I.
Is that good?
Right. I'm like,
what does get away with mean?
Right. Yes. And so, there's just those like generational parenting things that are just there.
Yep.
That are challenging. I'm sure you hear that all the time. I'm hoping you hear that all the time.
I do. I hear it all the time. People talk about it all the time. And the best thing is just lead, be the kind of parent you want him to be, and he'll see it. Just like we do with the kids. We model the behavior, and he's a good man, so he's going to come along. He will.
Yeah. He's curious about it. I can definitely see that he's like curious. So, there's room there for growth, I think, for all of us. But
yeah. But Cecilia, don't beat yourself up, please. Be loving and kind to your sweet self. You're doing a lot of good work over there.
Thank you. I'm really trying to. It's just,
I know.
It's hard. It's a work.
It's not easy. It seriously is not easy. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you sharing your, dilemma with us.
I know that turned into like several dilemmas, but thanks for sorting it out and keeping us on track.
We're all good. This is what I do. I love it. It's my favorite work.
Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us on the Peace and Parenting podcast, everyone. And we will see you next time.